Okay, example 1 says to find x. Alright, so some good news here is that since this is 90 degrees and since these lines are parallel, all of the angles are 90 degrees. So that means this is 90, this is 90, this is 90. Okay, you get my point? They're all 90 degrees, including the 21x plus 6. So it's going to be 21x plus 6 equals 90. Alright, so since this is also a 90-degree angle. Alright, so now we're just going to solve for x. Take away 6 on both sides. Of course, you can just use n solve if you would prefer. It's going to be, what, 84? And if we divide both sides, sorry, don't take any shortcuts. If we divide both sides by 21, we get x equals 4. And there we have it. Of course, to check your work, plug it back in to make sure it equals 90. Example 2 says we need to find x. Again, simple, simple. All right, so this one's a little different. They're not all right angles. However, both of these lines are parallel. So since they're both parallel, that means this angle and this angle are congruent. And the reason why I'm looking at those two angles is because they were both labeled. So always look for the angles that are labeled. So these angles are congruent. They are also corresponding angles. That's how we can tell they're congruent. All right, so we know that 75 equals 11x minus 2. So again, this is a part equals part problem. This angle and this angle are equal. A shortcut to kind of figure out if it's part plus part or part equals part is if they're both like acute, then it's part equals part. If they're both obtuse, it's part equals part. But if one is acute and one is obtuse, then it's going to be part plus part equals 180. So that's a little shortcut to help you out. All right, so we're going to solve this. You can solve it using nsolve or by hand as usual. So that's going to be 77 equals 11x, which means x equals 7. Sorry if I divide both sides by x. Skip that step. All right, cool beans. Next we have number 3. Okay, so let's take a look at these angles. So we have this angle here, that one is marked, and this one is marked. Since both of those angles are marked or labeled, those are the ones we're going to be looking at. Now look at them closely. So this angle up here, is that an acute angle or obtuse? It's acute. And this one, it's also acute. So since they're both acute, this is going to be part equals part. Okay, so again, that's that shortcut. So 60 equals 8x minus 4. All right, so now we're just going to solve for x. All right, so we get 8 equals x, and that's all we needed to do. All right, so now we're going to go to example 4. Find x again. All right, so let's take a look. This angle is marked, and this angle is marked. So let's look very closely. I know this is going to be hard to tell, but this angle is acute. This one is obtuse. So since they are different, they're not equal. Since they're not equal, we have to do part plus part equals whole. So that's going to be x, a little bit more space. Okay, so x plus 109 plus x plus 89 equals, and what's the whole thing? Well, the whole thing is going to be 180 degrees. It's obviously not 90. If you have an obtuse angle, that's automatically greater than 90. So it has to be 180. Those are our only choices. Okay, so you can put it in nsolve just like this. So I guess for the purpose of helping you guys out, I'll go through that right now. Okay, now I'm gonna be real. A lot of y'all made the mistake of not putting equals and whatever's on the other side of the equal sign and then the comma x. I don't understand how you made that mistake, because I told you time and time again not to make that mistake. Grr. All right, so we get negative 9. So x equals negative 9. And if you're like, wait, how did we get a negative? Just plug it back in to make sure. So let's see, so negative 9 plus 109 is 100. Negative 9 plus 89 is 80. If I add them, I get 180. So we good. All right, next we're going to move on to example 5. Find the measure of angle RTV. So finally, we're not just finding x. Actually, no, we're not finding x at all. All right, so R, let me get my trusty highlighter, RTV. See how I did that? I just travel in the same direction that the letters tell me. Okay. All right, so for the sake of this example, I'm going to extend this line. All right, and these are parallel, so that's really helpful and important. Okay, so we know that if this is 60 degrees, this is also 60 degrees. This angle over here is 65, so we got right up here 65 degrees, and we got a 60 degrees, and we've made a little triangle down here, so we need to figure out that angle. So I'm going to add these bad boys together, and I'm going to take it away from 180, and then that'll give me 55 degrees? Yeah. So this angle here is 55 degrees. All right, now the reason I did all that craziness is because I see that this is a straight line. This part of it is 55, right? So this part of it is going to have to be 180 minus 55. Oh, what an interesting coincidence. So that's 125 degrees. So the measure of angle RTV is 125 degrees. Last but not least, example 6. Find the measure of GHI. Okay, so this is 40 degrees. This is 70 degrees. All right, so I'm going to do this one pretty similar to the last one. Okay. All right, so since this was 40 degrees, this guy down here has to also be 40 degrees. All right, this one over here is 70. And now we're trying to figure out this one. So we got 40, we got 70. We're going to add them together to get 110. Okay, so we're going to subtract that from 180. Oops. To get 70. So this angle is 70 degrees as well. All right, so now to figure out this missing angle, all up in here, we need to take that 170 from 180, which we already know is 110. Which again, not a coincidence, but we'll get into that later. All right, so the measure of GHI is 110 degrees.